Hello everyone and welcome to the Season 2 premiere of MCTV's The Middle Seats. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrew Auger.
And I'm Jake Hensler.
The Middle Seats is your source for all things cinema here at Marist College. Our show is broken down into 3 segments. We're going to be taking a look at the biggest news in movies this week with the top 5. Then we'll move into a featured review of David Fincher's Gone Girl. And then we'll conclude with our recommendation segment, which we like to call There Can Be Only One. Shuffle back to your seats, everyone. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. Aren't we, Jake Hensler?
Absolutely.
I'm so happy to be back. I believe you had a line for this.
Well, now that you mention it, a wise, genius, billionaire playboy philanthropist once said, it's good to be back. And of course, I'm quoting Tony Stark from Iron Man 2, but I feel like it really accurately applies here.
I think that's a very good quote for what we're doing here. For those of you who don't know what we've been doing throughout the summer, we've been working a lot on audio stuff just to keep content coming and keep our chemistry flowing. But we're really back. We're really glad to be back here on camera. And a big shout out, thanks to the Media Center for getting us in the brand new studio. We're the second thing ever to film in here, and we're very excited.
That's an honor.
Yeah, it is an honor. And we're gonna have you're gonna see technological leaps that we have never seen on MCTV before on this show. And we're also gonna be scandalous, right? And we're also going to be premiering some new content. You want to discuss a little bit of that?
Well, today we're going to start you off with the traditional stuff from last year, but we're going to get into reviews. We're going to get into people on the street, interviews, just a lot of good stuff coming up.
We have spent a lot of the summer brainstorming ideas, and we are really, really excited to show you those ideas and to bring them to you, right in the comfort of your own home.
Unfortunately, we couldn't do some of them today because of my shirt. But.
Yeah, when we tried to do the background, Jake looked like something that Buzz Aldrin would have thrown up on the moon. Sorry.
On the moon.
On the moon. You don't have any comebacks when I come at you.
No, I don't. I'm not that witty.
You just kind of take it.
Yeah, I'm used to it.
All right, I need people like that. It's okay. Well, let's not delay the inevitable any further, Jake. It's time to move into our news segment titled The Top 5.
These are the news stories we found the most interesting or different in the past week. They are ranked in ascending order. And Andrew, start us off.
Thank you so much, Jake. Our number 5 story adds another chapter to the either brilliantly artistic or absolutely terrifying saga of Shia LaBeouf. I haven't made up my mind yet. During an interview pertaining to the former Transformers star's upcoming World War II action drama Fury, co-star Logan Lerman recalled a particularly juicy anecdote from filming that saw LaBeouf cut his face with an actual knife to heighten the realism and intensity of the scene. LaBeouf also pulled his tooth out, much to the delight of his fellow actors. Said co-star Brad Pitt, quote, "He's one of the best actors I've ever seen. He's full-on commitment, man," end quote. You can decide for yourself whether LaBeouf's dedication to his role really paid off when Fury fires into theaters next week, October 17th.
That's a fascinating story. I think it's a little extreme, though.
Shia LaBeouf has been on this weird kick lately, and it's one of the most fascinating pop culture things of the last few years, I think. Just to see this man go from one of the...
I was going to say, him or this story is most fascinating.
Yeah, no, just for him, seeing him go from one of the top young actors in Hollywood, not necessarily the best, I don't know what we think of his Transformers performance. But yeah, he was extremely popular, and then he just kind of fell off the wagon because, I don't know if he had some kind of existential crisis, but he started doing some art movements. He did this weird thing that I was watching where he had like a museum, and he had people come talk to him and berate him and do whatever they want to him while he just sat there with a bag on his head saying, "I am not famous anymore." And he is just going off the deep end. And you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of what Joaquin Phoenix was doing a couple years ago. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, no, he went out with this crazy beard and said he's not acting anymore and a bunch of...
And that was for a movie. I wonder if this is a weird method thing where Shia is trying to tap into some kind of performance that that's about to be unleashed onto us.
Well, if he's willing to cut his cheek open, and reoccurringly, might I add you, he did it throughout the film to make it look more real. Apparently, Logan Lerman said the makeup looked good. He didn't like a makeup, so he just flat out took a knife across his cheek. Yeah. So he's willing to do that.
Although we're not giving him enough credit. You told me of a factual inaccuracy that I got on the story. He had a dentist pull his tooth out, not his own tooth.
Correct.
So he's only about 30% crazy as opposed to 45 or 50. I'm being generous there too.
Very generous.
Multiply that by like 3. Yeah.
3. All right. So for our number 4 story for tonight refers to the villainous Breaking Bad star Giancarlo Esposito. Many know him as Gus Fring, one of the better TV villains in recent memory. Esposito is now set to play a role in the next Maze Runner sequel. The Maze Runner, like The Hunger Games but on a lesser scale, did well in the box office and enjoyed among viewers as well. Esposito becoming a well-known name should only add to the hype when its sequel, now titled Maze Runner Scorched Trials, is released September 2015.
I'm a big fan of Breaking Bad, and Giancarlo Esposito's character, Gus Fring, in that show.
Oh, yes.
He's like the ultimate epitome of menace, and I really love everything about that character. And Esposito's a very good actor on his own. He can do a lot of different things. And I'm excited to see him in a franchise like this where he can get a little bit more exposure to a wider audience.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, you know my love for Breaking Bad. I believe you called it a high last year, and I would agree with you.
Yeah, you were addicted. You literally were addicted. Like, I had to take the thing out of your veins just to get you off of the Breaking Bad.
Funny because it's about drugs. Anyway, but yes, I love Breaking Bad. I thought Giancarlo Esposito was phenomenal as Gus Fring. Unfortunately, I didn't get to the first Maze Runner. I think I had a cross-country meet or something, but I heard good things from you and the people that you went with. And adding Giancarlo with the acting that he had on Breaking Bad, I can't imagine it doing poorly.
Yeah, we saw it a couple weeks ago, and I was impressed. A lot of those young adult adaptations have a tendency to crash and burn, stuff like The Host and
Right.
Mortal Instruments, City of Bones, and Twilight, in my opinion.
Well,
yeah, I mean, we're not exactly the target audience for Twilight, but I think it's fair to say that those aren't cinematic masterpieces on their own.
Wouldn't disagree.
But Maze Runner was actually a surprisingly intense, surprisingly fun picture, and I'm excited to see what the sequel brings us. And I'm excited that they're accelerating the progress of the production so that it's coming next year.
Yeah.
Like, not a lot of waiting time in between, so that people that are anticipating the next one don't have to wait too long.
Right.
And I hope this becomes a trend in modern-day Hollywood.
Yeah, I would like to see that instead of waiting like 3 years for a sequel.
I think that, yeah, I completely agree with that.
Hence Avengers, but
Hence Avengers.
anyway.
Our number 3 story reports on the developments of a film based on one of the darker and more tragic events in recent history. Variety reports that Gone Baby Gone star Casey Affleck has signed on to star and produce Boston Strong, which will chronicle the titular town's reaction to the bombings at the 2013 Boston Marathon. The fighter screenwriters Eric Johnson and Paul Tomasi are adapting the story from the currently unpublished book by Casey Sherman and Dave Wedge. The producers are currently shopping the film to various studios. No director or co-stars are in place.
I got to tell you, I just read about this recently, and I am excited for this movie. I remember when the Boston Marathon happened. For those of you who don't know, I run cross country and track. I've been doing it for a few years now. And the day of the bombing, our high school team had a track workout, and we were all devastated. Like, we couldn't believe the news that went down for such a great event. It was terrible.
It's one of the more I remember the frenzy that was going on that whole week, and it was just absolutely terrifying because it felt like we were under attack again.
Yeah.
And I think I have questions of whether this is too soon to produce it. I'm curious what you think. Do you think it's a little too soon? But I also have another point of what I've read about what they're going to do with it, where I think it may not be too soon. What are your thoughts?
Right. Well, my thoughts I think are going to go with the point that you have. So go ahead and read the point, because I think I'm going to agree with you.
Well, basically, it's gonna take place after the marathon, and it's gonna be more of like an inspiring kind of drama about how the city rallied around and just kind of came together as one. And I think that could work. The thing that it reminds me of is a brilliant film, United 93. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I did not.
But it chronicles the passengers on one of the flights of 9/11, and it's a really like heroic in the face of danger movie, and it's weirdly inspiring in the face of tragedy, and it says a lot about the human condition. And I think if this is handled correctly, I think this could be in the same vein as that. And I trust Casey Affleck too. He's a solid actor.
Yeah, no, he's getting a lot of credit, lately for a lot of his acting stuff. Going to be in Interstellar, which I'm very excited about. But before I digress, I think that if it's done in the point that you read, I think it's going to be good. I mean, depending on the point of view, it could be a bit touchy because it is pretty recent. But if it's a positive, upbeat vibe, a lot of inspiration, and just good feelings overall, I think it's going to be a good movie. And I think it's all right.
And I think I can see his brother directing this too.
I think so.
I think this is a project that would be really suited for him because of his love for that town.
That's very true.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit more about his brother later.
Right. So, a runner-up story brings us to the X-Men universe, coming to us in 2016. X-Men Apocalypse will officially end a trilogy that started with First Class in 2011 and was followed by Days of Future Past this last May. Director Bryan Singer, who is back at the helm of Apocalypse, has confirmed that this movie will primarily focus on Mystique, played by Jennifer Lawrence, but it still will feature much of the cast from the previous film. However, there are still plenty of questions that linger around this final chapter of the X-Men series after so brilliantly tying them together in Days of Future Past. Expect this final film to be released in May of 2016.
End of the trilogy always tells me something is coming and something huge is coming because It usually signifies a certain kind of storytelling that is rarely seen in other films. Like, there's a finality to what happens in a final piece of a trilogy that you can't see anywhere else. And what I mean by that is, I think we're going to see some main characters get offed here because there's going to be a potential threat that has to top what we saw in Days of Future Past.
Right.
And I think we may see a couple X-Men do bit ado this upcoming couple
And for those who don't know, in the comic books, Apocalypse is supposed to be like the ultimate villain. He is the main bad guy.
Right.
Magneto is generally the guy they fight often, but Apocalypse is like the ultimate, evil, kill-all, whatever you want to call it. So the fact that they're bringing him in, one, is interesting. I'm glad they're going to bring in that kind of villain. And two, yeah, it's a bit worrying. I wonder what they're going to do with this story. I mean, I'm not worried about this story necessarily because I loved Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past was excellent.
One of my favorite 2014 movies. But Apocalypse, with the villain they're bringing back, that's very, very interesting.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the focus on Jennifer Lawrence too. I think that's a very calculated move to put Mystique at the forefront because she is the most marketable person in that cast now. Even with Hugh Jackman in the cast,
right?
Like, her star is on the rise right now, and I find it interesting. That I wonder if they're going to do that for a story purpose or they're going to do it because she's the most popular actress alive right now. And I'm hoping it's because Mystique is really important.
Right, I hope
because
so too.
she is the Days of Future Past.
That's what I was going to bring up. She's a very, very important character in Days of Future Past, so I would imagine they coincide. And I hope I'm right, and it's not just because Jennifer Lawrence is star power. Not that it's a bad thing.
I know. I love Jennifer Lawrence. She's fantastic.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm hoping that ends up all right. Our top story tonight. We're finally getting a Ghostbusters 3. Well, sort of. It was confirmed earlier this week that Paul Feig, creator of Freaks and Geeks and director of Bridesmaids and The Heat, is working on a reboot of the franchise that will feature an all-female version of the spirit hunting team. Kate Dippold, who wrote The Heat for Feig, is penning the screenplay for the project, which currently has no immediate production date. This is after several false starts on the project, mostly caused by the speculative ramblings of one Mr. Dan Aykroyd. There hasn't been a Ghostbusters film since 1989, but the brand has remained popular thanks to a handful of cartoon adaptations and a couple of successful video games.
Now, you introduced me to this story. I didn't know they were going to do this, but that could potentially be very good and very funny.
It's an interesting way to reboot a popular franchise, and I know they've been trying to do this for a while, and I think Paul Feig means Melissa McCarthy. I think it means Kristen Wiig. I'm hoping it means Tina Fey and Amy Poehler.
It could mean Sandra Bullock even.
It could even mean Sandra Bullock. If you get the right cast for this, it could be phenomenal.
Right,
and I read something earlier today that he said he wants it to be a kind of like a scary movie that's played for laughs. You know what he's saying? He's saying, like,
in a Zombieland kind of sense?
He doesn't want to be like a farce, basically. In a Zombieland kind of sense. That's an excellent example. Yeah.
Well,
but
I
I
love
think
Zombieland, so.
I love the first Ghostbusters. I've never seen Ghostbusters 2. But I've heard it's a pale imitation, and we haven't had anything since. And I know they've been trying to get this project off the ground, but I think Bill Murray is the one that keeps killing it. I don't think he cares at all. Dan Aykroyd is just looking to eat food and get a paycheck, so he's just trying to keep it going.
Damn, shots fired.
Dan Aykroyd, what has Dan Aykroyd done lately? Think about it.
Just okay.
He was the voice of Yogi Bear a couple of years ago.
Great character, but no, I'm kidding.
we don't need to be defending Dan Aykroyd today. Anyways. But I think there's a lot of potential here.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree. I had a point I can't remember, to be honest. So
I think that's a cue to move on.
Fine. Well, that'll do it for the top 5 this week. It's time to move into our featured review of the highly anticipated Gone Girl. Andrew, it's all yours.
Thank you, Jake. I can't see me loving nobody for you for all my life. Those are the wise words performed by 60s rock band The Turtles in their classic pop hit Happy Together. This specific lyric speaks to a certain ideology, an optimistic outlook on relationships, love, sex, marriage, retirement, and all the other stuff that evokes a fuzzy feeling that oozes with thoughts of unicorns, rainbows, and multicolored hearts. We all want to buy into the perfectly romantic idea of love that exists in songs such as Happy Together, but, reality is reality. Every relationship has its own various quirks and mannerisms, which in turn causes unique problems and situations we've all been through. These relationships before, and we can relate to some extent. Then there's the relationship at the center of David Fincher's Gone Girl, which will leave you questioning not only everything you know about relationships, but also what you know about people in general. Gone Girl is an atmospheric, fascinating, riveting, intense, darkly comedic thriller that will leave you thinking about its gripping story and stunning technical proficiency long after you've uncovered the mystery at hand. The aforementioned mystery is a story adapted from the 2009 bestseller by Gillian Flynn, and Flynn pens the translation to screen as well. Ben Affleck stars as Nick Dunn, a middle-class average Joe who returns home one morning to find his wife, Amy Dunn, played by Rosamund Pike, nowhere to be found. There's little indication of where Amy could possibly be, but there are clues around the house that imply a struggle. That insinuation, coupled with some interesting tidbits about the couple's past, lead the police to suspect that Nick may have something to do with the disappearance. His sleazy personality doesn't help matters, but why would he harm his wife? But then again, why wouldn't he? To reveal anything further would be blasphemous. Flynn's novel apparently appeals to the twisted readability of an airport mystery. I haven't read it, and she continues to spellbound onto the move of screen. I urge each and every one of you who has even the slightest interest in seeing Gone Girl to avoid any kind of written piece about the film, because the experience is just that much more rich if you go in completely unsullied. I was hooked on Gone Girl's story like a hyperactive child addicted to candy, and that I eagerly awaited each plot twist in giddy succession. Fincher's direction is brilliantly subtle in how he plays on the audience's investment, meticulously peeling back the layers with expert pacing. Each new piece of the puzzle is superior, juicier than the next. It truly is mystery storytelling at its best. Fincher has a tendency to get the best out of his actors, and the performances in Gone Girl are no exception. Affleck is as good as he's ever been here. He delivers a layered turn that reads the line between moral ambiguity and actual sympathy. We never feel inclined to like Nick, but Affleck's natural presence makes it very hard to hate him. As good as Affleck is, however, it's Rosamund Pike that steals the show. She is absolutely mesmerizing as the titular Gone Girl, and her performance is going to carry weight well into the award season. The two leads are backed by a strong ensemble, which includes Neil Patrick Harris, Scoot McNairy, Carrie Coon, Kim Dickens, and a surprisingly strong Tyler Perry. Fincher's direction is atmospheric, his cinematography appropriately muted and moody, like a calmingly dangerous sedative to lure the audience into his trap. He's supported by a wonderfully creepy score from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross in their third collaboration with Fincher. They continually seem to match the extremely high bar they've set. Lest I mince my words, Gone Girl is an extraordinary achievement. It is the type of thriller that we're lucky to experience every 5 to 10 years, a film that's constantly surprising and always intense. I haven't even touched on some of the thematic victories that Fincher is able to slip into the film, such as his brilliant subtextual commentary on how the media portrays individuals, or the statement it makes about love and companionship, or even the statement it makes about the justice system. Today, for those of you who don't even care about the technical stuff, here's the bottom line. Gone Girl is extremely entertaining. It's the type of film you'll discuss for long periods of time at the water cooler or the Starbucks or the Brita or whatever, because you can't get it out of your head. Gone Girl truly is a special experience, one that you cannot afford missing.
Well said, well written, and for those of you who don't know, this is a very tough review to write because there is so much we cannot talk about at all. So, bravo, Andrew.
What are your thoughts on it?
I think you liked it a bit more than I did, but not to be confused, I loved it. I thought it was, I would love to write screenplays for movies one day, and this is the kind of movie that inspires people. It was a phenomenally written movie and well acted, especially, like you said, Rosamund Pike. David Fincher nailed the book adaptation. Like you said, there's so much good things about it.
And we really have to be careful with treading the line because I really don't want to spoil anything for anyone. It's just a great experience to go. We go with a couple of people. Each twist is better than the next. It's just a lot of fun at the theater while also having something to say about certain issues. And Fincher's one of my favorite directors working today. Just the way he's able to tell a story, and especially these kind of stories. We're going to talk about some of our favorites in a little bit, but his ability to tell a crime story specifically is phenomenal. And I know one we're not going to be touching on later is Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which I don't know if you saw that, but
I did. I liked it a lot.
Another excellent crime story.
Seven, right?
Seven is also awesome. But yeah, I really love this film, and I don't know if my enthusiasm's getting across too much, but I usually don't get this enthusiastic, and I was gushing when I left the theater after this one.
Well, actually, when you first left the theater, I was like, oh my god, he was for you guys back at home. He didn't really say a whole lot, and I was like, I wonder if he didn't like it, and it looked like he was more of just processing because we got at the parking lot and he didn't yell, but he was like belting out as much as he liked this movie, and I can see why. It was very, very well done, awesomely written, and there's, like you said in your review, there's a lot of good underlying stuff like shots at the media, shots at the justice system, a lot of good stuff in there.
It's really smart. If you had to do like a college paper on it or something like that, there's a lot that you could pull from this. And like you read me right. I was quiet throughout the whole thing because I was reading I was just taking it all in basically because of how much I really enjoyed the film. And we talk a little bit about the performances and stuff. Rosamund Pike, there's just so many like little nuances to her performance that I don't even want to dare touch right now. But it's just fantastic. Neil Patrick Harris is great as this very mysterious character.
Different role from him for those who were used to How I Met Your Mother, but he's great. Tyler Perry too.
And how about Tyler Perry?
Right.
That's another thing. He's excellent. He's very good.
Cracked me up.
He's excellent comic relief here. And not to take anything away from Affleck, he is the glue that holds this film together. And he says so much with his facial expressions and his body movement that a lot of actors can't pull off today. And I'm really liking this Affleck renaissance that we're seeing. Yeah,
I would agree. A lot of his movies can seem to be a bit monotone in some areas, but I think it actually played out really well in this movie. His acting ability, and you said this when we first watched it. His character is a lot more complex than you would think.
Yeah,
it's tough to play.
No, it's a very hard character to play because at the surface it seems like he's just playing himself, but on the inside it's something completely different.
Yeah.
It's something that has to be like convey several different layers with more than just dialogue, and he is able to pull that off perfectly.
Yeah, I would agree. And again, no spoilers, but greatly sets you up, and then I kid you not, every 15 minutes it finds a way to really win.
It just kept surprising me, which is something that it takes a lot for a movie to do these days.
Yeah, no, it really is one of a kind, and and like you said, it's a movie that you can't get out of your mind. You're gonna talk about the water cooler at Starbucks, whatever, and I agree. Like the next day, I remember like going to class and not paying attention at all and thinking about Gone Girl. Sorry, Mom and Dad, if you're watching this. But
do you ever pay attention in class though? Does it take Gone Girl?
Yeah, I do. But anyway.
All right. Any weaknesses? Because I don't have any.
I know you don't have any. Now. It's tough. I think it may have been a bit long, but on the contrary, there's nothing I would remove from the movie. It's all necessary.
Everything
it's all
is very
relevant.
Important. Exactly.
It's all important. I mean, it's a little under 2.5 hours, which is a little long, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's just like you do feel the time a little bit, but again, everything is so good and so well done in the movie. And any problems I might have, to be honest, I can't say. So.
All right, we ready for our ratings?
Yes.
You want to? I don't think you've seen this yet. They're going to pop up right below us. So if I can do like a 3-2, can we get like a 3-2-1 maybe? Let's try 3, 2, 1. If they don't pop up on time, it's fine. There we go. Look at that. So Jake, you gave it a 9 out of 10. You want to give any final thoughts?
9 out of 10 because for me a 10 out of 10 is rare. I don't give it out very often. Again, don't take that the wrong way. Gone Girl was amazing. I have to rewatch that again and a couple movies again. It might be my favorite 2014 film. If not, it's top 5. Yeah. Very, very well done. It's going to be there in the Oscar season for multiple things, and I really loved it. It's a must-own, must-see, everything.
Yeah, and I've pretty much said everything I can say about it. It's probably number 3 on the year for me. I have to see it a couple more times to see if I can find anything that it needed, like fine tweaking or anything. But yeah, I'm absolutely in love with this film. I think it could end up being a modern day masterpiece if it holds up on the next. If it holds up on the next screening, if it's not just a flash in the pan because of the different twists. Does it hold up after we know everything?
I think it will.
I really hope so.
Because it does surprise you a lot, but at the same time, the fact that it had you going the entire time really shows how great the writing is and how great Fincher directs this movie. And the acting is very good. I don't want to dull down the acting. Rosamund Pike was phenomenal.
Yeah,
killed it.
We're going to be able to talk about her performance a lot more like 6 months from now. But right now,
hopefully,
we're going to keep it right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that'll do it for our review of Gone Girl. It's time to move into our recommendation segment. There can be only one. This week, we'll be looking at the rest of the films of David Fincher, a man who I believe has as good a resume as anyone working in Hollywood today. Jake, what is your personal favorite David Fincher film?
Well, for me, I'm going to take a trip back to the year 2010, the start of a new decade and a personal turning point for myself in film. A special shout out goes to my dad for showing me a great slew of films, all in one brief period of time. Introduced me to some of the greats such as Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, Seven, directed by David Fincher, American History X, Silence of the Lambs, Usual Suspects, Pulp Fiction, and many others. But one of the most important and influential ones that I watched was 1999's Fight Club. The adaptation of the Chuck Palahniuk is currently my second favorite movie of all time, only behind Tarantino's masterpiece Pulp Fiction. Tarantino's masterpiece Pulp Fiction. Fight Club is brilliantly written and directed and has created iconic characters, dialogue, and so many memorable moments that fans love. Edward Norton plays a material-obsessed insomniac with a large emptiness in his life and nothing to fill it until he gets involved with Brad Pitt's iconic character, Tyler Durden. He's the complete opposite of Edward Norton's character and only described as everything we wish we could be. Tyler's way of life changes the people crazy enough to hang around him, and his attitude picks apart society one brilliant scene at a time. With such great style, metaphors, legitimate points, and underlying messages, Fight Club is not one to be forgotten. My personal favorite Brad Pitt performance, my personal favorite David Fincher film, and a plot twist that leaves everyone's jaws at their feet. This one-paragraph critique could easily become an essay for me, and I simply can't say enough good things about it. And one of the few films I easily give a 10 out of 10.
You're going to make me say it, aren't you? I haven't seen Fight Club. I have not seen Fight Club.
For those at home, I've been on his butt about it, and he hasn't seen it. Just gonna say it.
First rule about talking about Fight Club, see Fight Club. But the reputation of the film is just incredible.
I adore it. I mean, it's just, I think I like it for some personal reasons, not to say it's not great. I love it. But I love the way it picks apart, like I said, society and the underlying messages it has, the scenes, the things it says, kind of like Gone Girl with the media, except for their society back then, and some truth to it. There's one quote that I think I said the other day. In case you haven't seen it, I'm not going to say it, but I think it's very, very accurate in a lot of the stuff it portrays and says.
I was watching the trailer earlier, the one that played when we were doing it, and that's probably the longest stretch of that movie I've seen, and it looks mesmerizing. It looks amazing.
You're killing me.
And Fincher, I know Fincher delivers. I have no doubts on that.
Oh no, this film brought me on to Fincher. Anything with his name on it now, I'm like, ooh, Fight Club director.
His resume is like one of the most underrated and
I agree.
And strongest.
Very, very underrated.
I wish I could talk about this with you more. Audience members, I'll give you an update when I've actually seen it, and I'll give you my thoughts. How about that? None of you care. It's okay.
I care.
I know you do. How many of you have checked Facebook in the last 30 minutes? I personally can say that since we've been on the air, I've had the urge to grab for this little baby at least 3 times to see if I got any new notifications from the Facebook application, particularly any pokes, hopefully. The addictive nature of the site is based on our needs as humans to feel accepted, to accumulate as many friends as possible in order to validate our own sense of social recognition. That's the through-line theme running throughout Fincher's 2010 drama, The Social Network. A brilliantly written, astonishingly acted, precisely directed work of modern cinema. The film follows the creation of Facebook by smug prodigal genius Mark Zuckerberg and the subsequently fallout that follows it all. It all starts with Aaron Sorkin's script. His instinct for structured story is pitch perfect, and his dialogue cackles with a cutting and sardonic force that underscores several scenes that will be defined as all-time greats. Jesse Eisenberg is incredible as Zuckerberg, as is Andrew Garfield as partner Eduardo Saverin, Armie Hammer in a technically impressive dual role as the pompous Winklevoss twins, and even Justin Timberlake as the manipulative Sean Parker. Fincher's direction is gorgeously restrained, as is Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's score, both playing to the strengths of the story while impressing in their own rights. You can't get to 1 million friends without making a few enemies, but if you show them The Social Network, they may just change their mind.
Well said. Personal thoughts, I did like Social Network, but when I first saw it, I was not as in love as you are, admittedly. I did like it. I didn't get the wow factor.
What do you not like about it? I'm just curious.
I thought overall it was good. I can see it winning some awards, but overall, I was just overall not that impressed by it.
Here's the thing I love about that movie. It's just the way that the dialogue, how natural and how cinematic at the same time the dialogue is. Mm-hmm. Like it's clearly movie dialogue, but it's stuff that I can picture saying to people.
Right. That's true.
And it perfectly fits the characters too. Like Aaron Sorkin was born to write for Eisenberg, especially because Eisenberg has a couple of scenes that are just some of the best I've ever seen. But Social Network's one of my favorite films of all time. There are a lot of standout sequences. It's probably the showiest direction Fincher's done, having seen a certain amount of films that he's done. He has, especially there's one scene that uses, I don't know if it's Flight of the Valkyries, but it's one of those where it's the Winklevosses on the marina during their race. It's just a beautifully shot, beautifully executed sequence, and it's just moments like that. I can think of several sequences in my head that are like that, and everything about the movie I adore. It's just phenomenal.
Right, and I mean, don't get me wrong. I do like it. Jesse Eisenberg was good. Andrew Garfield was good. The overall movie, directing, writing, everything was good. I just didn't live up to the hype that I guess maybe you and Joey and whoever else were giving me.
Oh yeah, I mean I've seen it. I don't know how many times I've seen it. Probably 4 or 5 times. It's just one of my favorites. And So, Fight Club.
So we're on a similar page.
we checks and balances. Although I could end up loving Fight Club. You never know.
If you don't, man, I don't know. The show's gonna
And
be
the show's
rough.
canceled, everyone. I hated Fight Club. That's going to be tough to tell everyone.
I will never allow you to
A
talk
show
about.
based on debate is broken by a debate.
If you don't like Fight Club, we will not talk about Fight Club.
Although we do
because
agree a lot. I hope that changes next week because I like arguing with you.
That's a very interesting statement, but I know what you mean.
I know what movie we're reviewing next week, folks, and I think we might be arguing. Let's see. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
But for now, that's a wrap on the season premiere of MCTV's The Middle Seats. We're weekly this semester, so keep a lookout for the next episode. Same time, same place.
And if you have a question or comment for the show, we now have an email address. It is directly below us. Send us your various questions about movies, and we'll be sure to answer them in our upcoming mailbox segment.
Having said all of that, it's time for us to go. For everyone here at The Middle Seats, I'm Andrew Auger.
I'm Jake Hensler. Keep that seat warm, everyone. We'll be back soon. I don't know.
Why not?
Right, why not? Punch you at the ovaries.